Hi, grade 4. I'm going to continue reading us Ticket to Curlew. Obviously, you don't have something to follow along with. So you can just listen with your ears and create mind pictures while we read, okay? So we're on chapter 10. And Sam is back on the homestead. And they got Mrs. Barnett. Miss Barnett, she helped them get a snack to get their horse because their horse Prince wasn't coming from the schoolyard. All right, chapter 10. September turned into October. Sam began to look forward to school each day. 3 more pupils had shown up, and one of them was a boy just a year younger than Sam. He made the schoolyard games much more fun for Sam, but he lived far from the farriers. Josie had the same problem with her new best friend, Dorothy. You see, Josie explained at dinner one night, Dorothy lives just as far on the other side of Curlew as we do on this side, so we never see each other except at school. Now, if I could just ride Prince over to her house... No, said Pa. Absolutely not. Sam is the only one of you old enough to ride out alone. I hope you understand that, Josie. Yes, Pa, said Josie meekly. In fact, none of the pupils saw each other out of school unless they lived in town. But they made up for it by coming to school early to play Red Rover and kick the can before the bell rang. During noon hour, they played marbles and skipped rope. Sam liked the games, but his favorite time of the day was the ride to school. The air was cool, birds rose from the fields, and gophers dodged into their holes as Prince passed. Sometimes they met a wagon on the track or saw John or Adam Martingale out working. One morning, Sam heard the sound of a horse coming up behind him. It was overtaking them quite fast, and Sam twisted around to see who was in such a hurry. It was the boy from the sod house. He was riding a big, raw-boned black horse. Of course he can go faster than we can, Sam thought mostly to himself. His horse has only one rider. Josie heard him. And his horse is much bigger, she said. Prince is kind of small. Sam was saved from having to answer by a shout from the boy. Allo, allo! Josie and Matt answered, hello, but Sam, thinking that the boy wanted more room to pass them, guided Prince to the side of the track. The boy didn't pass. He stopped and smiled shyly at all of them. He was wearing a loose blue shirt and black trousers tucked into the tops of wide boots. On his head was a flat cap with a brim in front that shaded his eyes. He looked tall, sitting so high on his horse, and Sam thought he might be older than 12. After a minute, the boy pointed to himself and said, Gregor. Josie said in a pleased voice, It's his name! She pointed to herself and said, Josephine. The boy frowned in a puzzled way, so she shrugged. Oh, call me Josie. Everybody calls me Josie. Josie, said Gregor. Then Matt said, I'm Matthew, but you can call me Matt. Gregor beamed and said slowly and clearly, Matteo. It must be the way to say Matthew in his language, said Sam. It was his turn now. Sam, he said. Just Sam. Then he realized that Gregor would think his name was just Sam. So he said clearly, Sam. Sam, said Gregor, and leaned over and held out his hand. Sam stretched out his own hand, and they shook. It was the first time he had ever shaken hands with a person his own age, but it felt like the right thing to do. Gregor smiled the wide smile that turned his eyebrows and all the lines in his face up. Then he said something to his horse and rode off ahead of them. He turned once and waved. They all waved back. Where is he going? Asked Matt. Pa said his father hired him out to work for someone who is trying to get a house and a barn built in a hurry, said Sam. I guess his family needs cash. Maybe he can learn some English working anyway. No, he can't, said Josie. Mrs. Pratt said the people building the house only speak German. We are lucky. At least we can talk to some people who aren't in our family. As they jogged along, Sam thought that for Josie, having people to talk to was luck. For him, luck was not having to work all the time. School was work, in a way, but it was better than spending every day fetching and carrying to build a house you would never live in yourself. He liked doing chores on their own place better. That made sense. And when Prince was included in the job, it hardly seemed like work. Prince was turning out to be a reliable horse. That's what Pa said. Except for wanting his after-school treat every day, he wasn't temperamental. He even seemed to have a built-in clock. If school didn't let out exactly at 3:30, he came and stuck his nose in the open window of the schoolhouse. He didn't look at Mrs. Barnett, only at Sam. He never made a sound, but his unblinking eyes drew everyone's attention, and Miss Barnett would say, "Prince, I think your watch is faster than mine. I'm just about to dismiss them." When Sam thought about luck, he had to include Miss Barnett. She was a teacher who could laugh, and she never punished pupils with the strap. If one of them was daydreaming or pestering other children, she said, "Learning is a privilege, and if you don't wish to learn, you can spend the day in the cloakroom doing nothing at all." Being a bit of a daydreamer, Sam had spent some time there himself, and he had to admit it was boring, especially because Miss Barnett checked every so often to be sure you weren't sleeping. No, school wasn't bad. Still, Sam was always glad when the time came for the ride home. They never hurried. The ride was a break between schoolwork and chores. Prince was happy to jog along at a steady pace. Like a lot of people, Prince preferred not to exert himself. One afternoon, as they neared the Martingale place, Adam came running out of the barn. "Stop, Sam, stop!" he shouted, waving his arms. And we're going to have to pause here and we'll see what happens. Hi, grade 4. We're going to continue chapter 10 of Ticket to Curlew. Hope you're enjoying it. "Whoa, Prince," said Sam. He wondered whether to jump down. Maybe the barn was on fire. But Adam ran right over to them. "I'm sorry to shout at you," he said, "but I'm most worried. The oxen have wandered off. They were in the field for their midday grazing, and I suppose the gate was left open because they were gone when I came out. You know that we have only one horse, and John has ridden off to the south to search. Unfortunately, my father and yours have taken a team and gone north to talk to a man who may have some seed wheat. I'm going to borrow Goldie, and go to the east. Could you take Prince and go west? I only hope the oxen haven't gone too far. They are wearing their harnesses. Take some rope so that you can lead them home if you find them." None of the children had ever heard Adam say more than 6 words together, but this was a real emergency. Even Matt knew that it was the oxen that made the Martingales' farming possible. To replace them would be very costly, and Sam suspected that for all their books and learned speech, the Martingales were like everyone else out on the prairie. Cash poor. "Of course I'll go," he said. "I just have to stop on the way to take Josie and Matt home and tell Mama where I'm going." Josie said, "I'm sure they'll turn up, Adam. It would be hard to lose anything that big for a long time." But Sam saw Adam's eyes taking in the vast land all around them. He knew what Adam was thinking. In all that space, his oxen could be lost forever. Mama understood the emergency at once. "Of course you should go. And no, Matt, you can't go along. Sam must ride as fast as he can. Just stay near the wagon track, son, and remember that it gets dark earlier now." She gave him bread and butter and a glass of milk and put some dried apples in his pocket. Prince had a good drink of water at the trough, and then they were off. As Sam turned Prince west out of the farm gate, he was suddenly filled with excitement. He hoped he would find the oxen, but not too soon. He had been waiting for a chance to take Prince for a real gallop across the country. He looked around carefully. There were no oxen to be seen. He decided that he would let Prince gallop for 10 minutes or so, then slow him and take a good look around. That way, they would cover distance and still take time to search the open landscape. It took a little urging to get Prince to gallop. He turned his head and looked at Sam as if to say, "Do you really want me to exert myself?" But once they found a rhythm together, it was wonderful. Sam felt Prince's warm back rising and falling, and the wind blowing his hair straight back. The brown grasses flew the brown grasses flew past in a blur. Suddenly, he remembered the oxen. "Whoa, Prince," he said. "We have a job to do." He held Prince to a walk for some minutes while he scanned the prairie for the missing beasts. Then he urged his horse to a gallop again. Once Prince had the idea, he willingly galloped, then walked, then galloped. Sam was sure that he was enjoying himself too. Looking ahead along the track, Sam thought he recognized the stretch he and Matt had stumbled along in the dusk. He leaned forward to pat Prince's neck. "I'm glad you're here now, boy," he said. Then he heard hoofbeats behind him. At first he thought he was just remembering the sound of the wagon on that night, but this sound was too loud for memory. Sam turned around, and there was Gregor on his big black horse. End of chapter 10.